The planet of Aurelia floated silently in the vastness of space, a jewel of deep green forests, sparkling blue lakes, and cities that shimmered in the light of its twin suns. Its people, the Aurelian race, were tall, elegant, and proud. Their skin shone faintly in colors that shifted like the northern lights. They lived in grand cities suspended in the air, connected by translucent bridges and floating gardens. Their technology was advanced, their art exquisite, and their traditions unyielding. Yet, beneath the beauty of Aurelia lay the rigid chains of custom. Every Aurelian was expected to act, think, and even love in ways that the society had decreed for centuries. And Lyra, a young Aurelian woman, had always struggled to fit into that mold. Lyra was intelligent, curious, and endlessly kind. She loved to explore the hidden corners of the floating cities, study ancient texts, and observe the strange machines humans sometimes brought to their planet. But in the eyes of her peers, she was different. Too inquisitive, too bold, too willing to question the elders. That morning, the day of the harmonium ceremony, Lyra felt her chest tighten with unease. The ceremony was the pinnacle of social life in Aurelia, a formal event where young adults were presented to society and expected to show they could uphold the family's honor. Her family, one of the most prestigious in the capital city of Luminara, watched her with cold expectation. "You must remember, Lyra," her mother said, her voice as sharp as crystal. "One misstep and the family's name will suffer. Control your curiosity. Hide your thoughts. Blend in." Lyra nodded, though her eyes betrayed her frustration. She had never wanted to blend in. She had always wanted to see the world beyond her floating city, beyond the rules of her people. As the ceremony began, Lyra moved with careful grace among the crowd, bowing and nodding, all the while noting the whispers of her peers. She could hear the judgment in their voices. Too daring, too different. She will ruin herself. Then came the moment that would change her life. The elders of harmony, robed in flowing shades of silver and gold, stepped forward. Their eyes scanned the audience, finally resting on her. "Lyra of House Virel," the lead elder intoned, "your actions and thoughts have been observed. You have strayed from the path expected of a noble Aurelian. Your curiosity has led you beyond the bounds of propriety. You are unsuitable." A hush fell over the ceremony. Gasps, murmurs, and shocked whispers filled the air. Lyra's heart pounded. "Unsuitable?" she thought. I have studied. I have trained. I have learned more than some of them." But no one cared. The elder's words were final. Lyra felt her world tilt. She had been publicly humiliated, marked as an outcast before the society she had always tried to honor. Her parents' faces were pale. Her mother's lips pressed into a thin line. Her father avoided her eyes entirely. The ceremony ended, but the judgment followed her. As she walked through the floating streets, heads turned away, whispers chasing her like shadows. It was not just rejection, it was a statement. She did not belong. Several light minutes away from the capital city, a human spaceship descended into Aurelia's atmosphere. The craft, sleek and angular, moved with confidence, its engines humming softly. Aboard the ship was Captain Ethan Drake, a human explorer and diplomat. Humans were a curiosity to the Aurelian people. They were shorter, slower in some ways, and their appearance seemed plain, yet there was something in their hearts and minds that intrigued the aliens, something that shimmered like light through water. Ethan had come to Aurelia on a mission of first contact and cultural exchange, tasked with learning about the alien civilization, building trust, and establishing friendly relations. He stepped out of his ship into the luminous glow of Luminara's skyway, taking in the floating city with wide eyes. The architecture was breathtaking. Buildings hung in the air, gardens spiraled above, and bridges glowed with a soft, natural light. Remarkable, Ethan whispered to himself, adjusting his diplomatic uniform. If only we could understand them better. His gaze caught movement in the streets below. A young woman, her colorful skin shimmering in the sunlight, walked alone, her posture tense, her head held high despite the visible weight of her shame. There was a spark in her eyes, something unusual in Aurelia, Ethan thought. Curiosity, courage, maybe even defiance. Lyra, meanwhile, had fled the public spaces and found refuge in a secluded garden high above the city. Bioluminescent plants glowed softly around her, their gentle light a comfort in the shadow of her humiliation. She pressed her hands to her face, trying to hold back tears, when she sensed a presence. "You're not from here," a calm voice said. Lyra looked up to see a human man, standing at the edge of the garden. His skin was pale by Aurelia standards, his hair dark, and his eyes bright with curiosity and kindness. I am," she said cautiously, unsure if he meant harm. "But you are human." Ethan nodded. "Yes, Captain Ethan Drake. I mean no harm. I am here to learn about your people." Something in his tone, the way he spoke without arrogance, without fear, drew Lyra out. She introduced herself, telling him her name softly. "Lyra," she whispered, almost ashamed. "Lyra Varel." Ethan tilted his head, noticing the sadness in her eyes. "You seem troubled. Can I help?" Lyra hesitated. Few dared to ask her that question, and fewer still cared about the answer. She saw honesty in his eyes, a warmth she had rarely experienced among her own people. Slowly, she spoke of her humiliation at the harmonium ceremony, her rejection, her fear of what the future might hold. Ethan listened without interruption. "I'm sorry," he said gently. "No one should be treated that way. You are brave for standing up for who you are, even if your society doesn't understand it." For the first time in hours, Lyra felt a flicker of hope. Here was someone from another world, yet he understood something that her own people could not. Courage and kindness were not measured by tradition alone. Over the next few days, Lyra and Ethan met in secret. She showed him hidden gardens, ancient ruins, and libraries full of knowledge forbidden to many Aurelian women. Ethan, in return, shared human stories, ideas, and inventions. He demonstrated how humans solved problems creatively, with resilience and empathy. One evening, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the floating city, Ethan said, "Your people are remarkable, but I see why they fear what is different. You are extraordinary, and they cannot accept it." Lyra smiled faintly, a bittersweet expression. "I am an outcast," she said softly, "cast aside by my own kind. But you don't seem afraid of me." "I'm not," Ethan replied. "In fact, I admire you." The bond between them grew stronger, not just as friends, but as allies against a world that had rejected her. They faced small challenges together, navigating the city's shifting walkways, solving ancient puzzles in abandoned towers, and observing dangerous wildlife from a safe distance. Ethan's human ingenuity impressed Lyra at every turn. He built tools from simple materials, devised strategies to avoid hazards, and showed patience and empathy that few of her people had shown her. It wasn't long before whispers of the humans' bravery and intelligence began to spread. Some younger Aurelian observers began to question the rigid traditions that had shunned Lyra. "Perhaps he is useful," they whispered. But the elders were less forgiving, keeping a careful eye on the meetings between human and outcast. One day, while exploring a hidden grove deep in the forest, a sudden tremor shook the ground. Rocks tumbled from above, and a rushing river threatened to flood the area. Lyra froze in panic. Ethan acted instinctively, pulling her to safety, then using his human tools to redirect the river's flow. When the danger passed, Lyra looked at him with awe. "You saved me?" Ethan shrugged modestly. "I just did what I thought was right. Anyone would help if they could." Lyra felt a warmth spread in her chest, a mix of admiration, respect, and something deeper she had never allowed herself to feel before. For the first time in her life, she realized that maybe her path was not dictated by her society's narrow rules. Maybe she could choose her own future. The sun set over Luminara, painting the city in shades of violet and gold. Lyra stood on the balcony of her family's abandoned estate, looking toward the horizon. Somewhere out there, a human man was changing her life. He had no claim to her world, no duty to her people, yet he had shown her the courage and kindness that her society had never valued. Her mind wandered to the future. Could a human truly be a partner, a companion, even a husband? The idea seemed impossible, and yet somehow it felt right. Lyra's heart beat with determination. She would not hide. She would not apologize for who she was. And perhaps if courage and hope held true, she might even ask the question that seemed forbidden in her world. The days that followed Lyra's secret meetings with Ethan were filled with discovery and quiet excitement. Aurelia, for all its beauty, was still a world of strict rules, and Lyra remained cautious. Yet, she could not resist the curiosity and courage that Ethan brought into her life. On this morning, the twin sons of Aurelia rose together, casting golden light across the floating city of Luminara. Lyra hurried through the winding pathways, her heart beating with anticipation. She had arranged to meet Ethan in the verdant spire, a hidden tower covered in vines and glowing flowers, far from the watchful eyes of the elders. Ethan was already waiting, his human uniform slightly dusty from landing in the forest below. His dark hair was tousled, and his eyes sparkled with excitement as he greeted her. "Good morning, Lyra," he said with a smile. "Are you ready for today's adventure?" She laughed softly. "I am. If you are sure, we will survive it." He grinned. "I am always ready. Humans are good at surviving." Their mission today was simple, yet dangerous. To explore the ruins of the ancient observatories, towers built centuries ago by Aurelian scientists. Many of the towers had collapsed over the years, and the paths leading to them were unstable. But Lyra wanted to show Ethan the forgotten knowledge of her people, and she trusted him more than anyone else in her world. The journey began with careful steps along narrow bridges connecting the floating islands of Aurelia. The air shimmered with bioluminescent spores, and the wind carried the scent of strange flowers. As they walked, Ethan noticed Lyra's unusual attention to detail. "Your people are incredible," he said. "Even in ruins, your architecture is elegant, precise, and alive." Lyra's chest swelled with pride. "We are taught to value perfection," she explained. "But sometimes perfection can blind us. These towers were built for observation, for understanding the stars and the world. Many forget that now." Ethan nodded. "It seems like they forgot a lot, but I'm glad you didn't. I want to see everything." Hours passed as they climbed, crawled, and navigated the crumbling structures. Ethan's human ingenuity was on full display. When a fragile bridge threatened to collapse, he tied ropes to nearby pillars and carefully guided Lyra across. When they encountered a locked door covered in ancient Aurelian symbols, he studied the markings and, with a clever combination of logic and observation, unlocked it without damaging the structure. Lyra watched him, amazed. You think differently from anyone I have met. Humans, you are remarkable." Ethan blushed slightly. "I just try to solve problems. Sometimes it works." As the sun began to set, they reached the central observatory. From its high platform, the view was breathtaking. The city of Luminara shimmered below, the forests stretched endlessly, and the twin suns bathed everything in a golden glow. "Look at this," Lyra whispered. "No one comes here anymore. It feels like a secret gift." Ethan placed a hand on the railing, his eyes wide. "It's incredible. I've seen a lot of worlds, but none like this." For a while, they simply watched the horizon in silence, the air filled with the quiet hum of the city below. And yet, peace was fleeting. A sudden tremor shook the observatory. Dust fell from the ceiling, and loose stones tumbled to the floor. Ethan instinctively grabbed Lyra's hand. "Hold on!" he shouted. The floor beneath them cracked, and a section of the bridge leading back to the main path collapsed. Lyra gasped. "We're trapped!" Ethan scanned the surroundings quickly. "Not trapped. We just need to find another way down. Come with me." They carefully descended through a hidden stairwell, winding down the tower's inner shaft. Lyra's heart pounded, but she felt a surge of confidence. With Ethan's guidance, she realized that danger could be faced without fear. Humans, she thought, had a courage that came from understanding and quick thinking. When they finally reached the forest floor, Ethan knelt to examine the soil and nearby rocks. "We need to mark this route," he said. "Others could get lost or hurt if they try to follow." Lyra nodded, impressed by his foresight. "You truly think of everything? I have never met anyone like you." As the stars appeared in Aurelia's night sky, they made camp near a gentle stream. Lyra shared stories of her childhood, of her love for learning, and of the shame that had been cast upon her. Ethan listened without judgment, offering insights from his human experiences. "Sometimes," he said, "people follow rules so closely that they forget what is right or kind. Your society, they value tradition over people. That is not fair." Lyra smiled faintly. "You speak the truth, but I cannot change them. I can only survive and hope that one day they might see differently." Ethan placed a hand gently on hers. "And until that day you have me. We'll face whatever comes together." Her heart skipped a beat. The warmth of his words, the sincerity in his eyes, made her feel stronger than she had in weeks. The next morning, their adventures continued. Lyra introduced Ethan to the hidden children of Aurelia, youngsters whose curiosity and intelligence had been suppressed by strict societal rules. The children were fascinated by Ethan's stories of humans, of planets beyond Aurelia, of ideas that were foreign and exciting. Ethan, in turn, encouraged them to explore, to question, and to think creatively. He built small devices from scraps found in the forest, demonstrating simple physics and engineering principles. The children's laughter echoed through the trees, a sound so rare in Aurelia that even Lyra felt a sense of wonder. This is amazing," she whispered to Ethan. "They have never been allowed to learn like this." Ethan shrugged modestly. "Humans believe learning should be free. Everyone should have the chance to explore ideas. It's not special, it's necessary." Their work drew attention, both good and bad. Some younger Aurelians watched in awe, whispering that perhaps Lyra was right to trust the human. Yet the elders remained suspicious, sending observers to follow them discreetly. Then came the day of the Forest Challenge, a natural trial that tested courage, intelligence, and teamwork. Lyra had wanted to participate, but as an outcast, she was barred from formal entry. Ethan, however, insisted on joining her. "We'll do it our way," he said. "Rules are not always the best guide." The challenge involved navigating treacherous terrain, crossing swift rivers, climbing cliffs, and retrieving ancient relics hidden in caves. Lyra's knowledge of Aurelia's forests, combined with Ethan's ingenuity, proved unstoppable. When a sudden landslide blocked their path, Ethan quickly built a makeshift bridge from fallen trees and vines. Lyra guided the children who had followed them, helping them cross safely. At the end of the trial, they had not only succeeded, but had also saved others along the way. Observers whispered in astonishment, "The human, he is clever and brave." Perhaps Lyra was right to trust him. The elders could not ignore the result. Yet instead of praise, they offered warnings. Lyra was reminded that her association with a human could endanger her further. Ethan was reminded to respect Aurelia's laws, but the seeds of admiration had been planted. As the sun set once again, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold, Lyra and Ethan returned to their hidden tower. I never expected humans to be so capable," Lyra admitted, leaning on the railing. "We are often judged as fragile or unwise, but you prove that humans can be extraordinary." Ethan looked at her with a soft smile. "We all have strengths. Yours is courage, curiosity, and kindness. I've seen many humans, Lyra, but none like you." The moment hung in the air, charged with unspoken feelings. Lyra's heart fluttered. She had begun to care for Ethan in ways she had never imagined. But her mind reminded her of reality. Her society would never accept this bond. Yet for the first time, she did not feel afraid. For the first time, she believed that her future could belong to her, not to tradition or judgment. Night fell, and Aurelia's forests glowed softly with bioluminescent light. Lyra and Ethan sat together, talking quietly about hopes, dreams, and the worlds they wished to see. In that moment, a connection was forged, one of trust, admiration, and perhaps the first stirrings of love. Somewhere in the shadows, observers from the elders watched. Whispers spread through Luminara. "The human is impressive. She is stronger than we believed." And quietly, the tide of opinion began to shift, little by little. Lyra realized that she had not only found a companion in Ethan, but also a way to reclaim her own strength. With him, she could face the trials ahead, challenge injustice, and perhaps even change her world. And deep in her heart, she wondered, could a human truly become more than a friend? Could he become her partner? The question lingered in the night sky, like the twin suns waiting to rise, promising a new dawn. Weeks passed since Lyra and Ethan had ventured into the hidden corners of Aurelia. Their bond had grown stronger, built on trust, respect, and shared experiences. Lyra felt courage in a way she had never known before, and Ethan admired the depth, intelligence, and kindness of the young Aurelian. Yet the world outside their secret adventures was beginning to notice. The elders of Harmony, long suspicious of Lyra's friendship with a human, decided that action was necessary. Whispers in the city spoke of danger, judgment, and trials that would test both human and alien alike. One morning, a formal summons arrived for Lyra. It was an ornate scroll, glowing faintly with the elders' insignia. She knew immediately what it meant. She was to appear before the Council of Harmony, the highest governing body on Aurelia. Her stomach tightened, but this time she did not tremble. With Ethan by her side, she felt a strength she had never known. "Whatever happens," Ethan said quietly as they walked through the floating city toward the council hall, "we face it together." Lyra nodded. Together. The council hall was a massive structure of silver and crystal, suspended high above the city by invisible fields of energy. Inside, the elders sat in a semicircle, their expressions cold and unreadable. Their eyes swept over Lyra, then Ethan, who stood respectfully beside her. "Lyra Virel," the lead elder intoned, "you have repeatedly ignored our warnings. You associate openly with a human, despite your status as a noble of this city. This council has convened to decide the consequences of your actions." Lyra stepped forward, head held high. "I have done nothing dishonorable," she said firmly. "Ethan has shown courage, respect, and wisdom. His presence has not harmed Aurelia. In fact, he has helped me learn explore, and protect our people." A murmur ran through the hall. The elders were unaccustomed to such boldness from a young woman, especially one labeled as an outcast. "Bold words for an outcast," the lead elder replied. "And yet, truth is difficult to deny. The council will test both of you. You must demonstrate your worth, not only to each other but to all of Aurelia." The trial was unlike anything Lyra had faced before. It was called the Gauntlet of Harmony, an ancient test designed to measure courage, intelligence, empathy, and collaboration. Traditionally, only the most esteemed nobles were allowed to participate. Now, an outcast and a human were to face it together. The first part of the gauntlet was the Labyrinth of Echoes, a twisting maze that responded to emotion and thought. Lyra and Ethan entered the maze cautiously, the walls glowing faintly with symbols that changed as they moved. "This is incredible," Ethan whispered. "It's alive, almost like it's reading us." Lyra nodded. "It reacts to fear, doubt, and conflict. If we let those emotions control us, we will be trapped forever." They moved carefully, supporting each other. When Lyra's nerves threatened to take over, Ethan held her hand. "Focus on what we know, trust each other, that is stronger than fear." Together they navigated the twisting paths. At times the maze seemed to shift against them, walls closing in or doors vanishing. But Ethan's human ingenuity combined with Lyra's deep knowledge of Aurelia allowed them to solve riddles, disarm traps, and find hidden passages. Their bond was tested, and each success strengthened it. Next came the River of Reflection, a wide, rushing river with no visible bridge. The current glowed faintly, reflecting fears and insecurities of anyone who attempted to cross. Lyra saw visions of her past humiliation at the harmonium ceremony. She saw herself as rejected, alone, and powerless. Ethan held her hand firmly. "Those are shadows," he said. "They are not you. You are brave, clever, and kind. Focus on that, and we can cross together." Using vines, rocks, and fallen branches, Ethan constructed a safe path. Lyra carefully stepped across, her trust in him unwavering. Halfway across, a vision appeared of her family turning their backs on her, their eyes filled with disappointment. Lyra's hands shook. I can't." Ethan squeezed her hands. "Yes, you can. You are not defined by them. You are defined by your actions, by your courage. We are together. We face this together." Drawing on his human resilience, Ethan adjusted the path, creating a stable bridge. Lyra stepped forward with confidence, feeling the strength of his belief in her. As they reached the other side, the river's glow faded, and they knew they had passed the second trial. The third part of the gauntlet was the Chamber of Choice, designed to test moral judgment and empathy. Inside, projections of real Aurelian citizens appeared, facing danger or hardship. Lyra and Ethan had to choose whom to save first, knowing that each decision carried consequences. Ethan studied the projections carefully. "We cannot save everyone at once," he said, "but we can act wisely. We must prioritize those in greatest danger while planning to help the rest." Lyra nodded, inspired by his human reasoning. Together, they made their choices, rescuing the projected citizens in an order that balanced urgency and fairness. Their teamwork was flawless, blending Lyra's cultural understanding with Ethan's logic and problem-solving skills. When they emerged, the chamber shimmered with approval. The elders' observers, who had been watching invisibly, whispered among themselves. "The human. He is extraordinary," one muttered, "and she is stronger than we thought." The final trial awaited them outside. The trial of unity, where the candidates faced a natural disaster threatening the city itself. A massive storm, the likes of which had not been seen in centuries, raged toward Luminara, bringing high winds, falling debris, and flooding. Ethan and Lyra acted quickly. Using his human engineering skills and Lyra's knowledge of Aurelia's terrain, they devised a plan to save citizens trapped on floating platforms and in damaged buildings. Ethan constructed temporary supports, bridges, and devices to stabilize structures. Lyra coordinated rescue efforts, directing workers, children, and volunteers to safety. The storm was relentless, but the human and alien worked together seamlessly. Where Lyra faltered, Ethan lifted and encouraged. Where Ethan hesitated, Lyra guided and reassured. Hours passed. The city groaned under the strain, but lives were saved. Citizens watched in awe as the outcast and the human performed feats of courage, intelligence, and empathy that no one could deny. When the storm finally passed, the skies cleared. The sun broke through clouds, casting golden light across the floating city. Exhausted but triumphant, Lyra and Ethan stood together, surveying the damage and the people they had saved. The Council of Harmony summoned them once more. The elders' faces were a mixture of sternness, amazement, and grudging respect. "You have completed the gauntlet of harmony," the lead elder said. "No Aurelian of recent memory has displayed such courage, intelligence, and empathy in these trials. The Council acknowledges your accomplishments. The human, he has proven his worth, not only in skill but in character. And you, Lyra, have shown that courage and loyalty transcend the judgments of society." Lyra felt a wave of relief and pride. She had faced the trials, stood beside Ethan, and earned respect in a society that had once rejected her. But more importantly, she had discovered her own strength. Ethan stepped forward. "I did not act for recognition," he said. "I acted because it was the right thing to do. Lyra is brave, clever, and wise. I only hope I can be the companion she deserves." The elders studied him carefully. Some were impressed, some still cautious. But none could deny the truth. Humans, though different, had remarkable qualities that even the most rigid Aurelian could respect. Courage, ingenuity, empathy. These were not bound by species. As the council dispersed, leaving Lyra and Ethan in the open hall, Lyra's heart pounded. She had faced judgment, danger, and fear, yet she stood stronger than ever. She turned to Ethan, her eyes bright. "Ethan," she said softly, I don't know what the future holds. My people, they may never fully accept us. But I know this. I want to be with you. I want to choose my own path, not one dictated by fear or tradition." Ethan's eyes softened. "Lyra, I want that too. More than anything. We will face whatever comes together." For the first time, the possibility of a future together felt real. The trials had tested them, shaped them, and revealed what they truly valued. The city had seen the strength of humanity reflected in Ethan, and the courage of an outcast reflected in Lyra. Above the floating city, the twin suns set, casting Aurelia in shades of gold and violet. Lyra and Ethan stood side by side, facing the horizon, ready to step into a future of their own making. And deep in her heart, Lyra knew that when the time came, she would ask the question that could change everything. The city of Luminara had recovered from the storm that had tested Lyra and Ethan. Yet, even as life returned to normal, tension lingered. Many Aurelian citizens whispered among themselves. The outcast, Lyra, once shunned, now walked with confidence, accompanied by a human who had proven remarkable in every way. Some admired them secretly, while others glared with resentment. The Council of Harmony had convened once more, not to punish, but to assess the implications of what had occurred. Lyra and Ethan were summoned to the central hall. The elders' expressions were difficult to read, a mixture of caution, curiosity, and grudging respect. The lead elder, a tall Aurelian with silver skin that shimmered like sunlight on water, spoke first. Lyra Varel, you have completed the gauntlet of harmony. Your courage, intelligence, and loyalty have been demonstrated beyond doubt. And you, human Ethan Drake, have proven your skill, wisdom, and honor. A murmur passed through the gathered audience. For the first time, the human was addressed as an equal, not a novelty or an outsider. However, the elder continued, your bond raises questions about the future. Lyra, you have defied tradition. The council must decide if such a union, between human and Aurelian, is acceptable. Lyra felt a flicker of fear. The trials had proven their worth, yet society's approval was uncertain. Ethan stepped forward. Esteemed elders, he said, his voice calm and sincere. We have faced danger together, solved impossible problems, and protected lives. My bond with Lyra is built on trust, respect, and care. I do not ask for approval for its own sake. I only ask that you recognize the truth of our actions and the value of courage and cooperation. The council exchanged quiet words. Some elders' faces softened, their expressions betraying admiration. Others remained silent, cautious. But a quiet realization had begun to spread. Perhaps humans, though different, brought qualities Aurelia had rarely seen: ingenuity, courage, empathy. The next challenge for Lyra and Ethan came not from the council, but from an unexpected threat. A rogue asteroid fragment, remnants of an ancient cosmic collision, had entered Aurelia's orbit. Its trajectory would bring it dangerously close to the city, threatening to cause damage to the floating platforms and the lower forests. The council called an emergency assembly. Citizens panicked, unsure of what to do. Lyra turned to Ethan. We can help, she said firmly. We've faced challenges before. We can do it again. Ethan nodded. We must act fast. Let's plan carefully. Using human knowledge of physics and Aurelia's advanced technology, they devised a plan. Ethan suggested a combination of gravitational field manipulation and force projectors to redirect the asteroid's path. Lyra coordinated the workers, technicians, and volunteers, assigning roles and ensuring safety protocols were followed. As the asteroid approached, the city held its collective breath. Ethan guided the energy projectors with precision, while Lyra monitored the city's structural integrity. The asteroid trembled closer, glowing faintly from the energy fields surrounding it. Almost there, Ethan muttered, adjusting the field. The asteroid wobbled, shifting dangerously. Lyra's heart raced. You can do it, she shouted. We trust you. With one final adjustment, Ethan redirected the asteroid's trajectory just enough to safely pass Luminara. The city shook from the aftershock, but no structures were destroyed. Citizens erupted into cheers, amazed at the ingenuity and courage displayed. The council convened immediately after. The lead elder spoke, voice filled with awe. You have saved lives and preserved the city. Your actions demonstrate the highest virtues of courage, intelligence, and collaboration. Humans and outcasts have shown us that merit is not bound by birth or species. For the first time in Aurelia's history, a human was formally recognized for heroism and contribution to society. Lyra's heart swelled with pride, not only for Ethan but for herself. She had helped lead this effort, guided by her instincts and intelligence, and together they had triumphed. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lyra and Ethan stood on a balcony overlooking the floating city. The sky was painted with shades of gold, purple, and pink, reflecting off the crystal structures and floating gardens. Lyra turned to Ethan, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. Ethan, I have been thinking about something, about us, about what I want, and what my life should be. Ethan's eyes softened. I am listening. I was rejected by my own kind, she said quietly. They said I was unsuitable, that I did not belong. And yet, you saw me differently. You valued my courage, my mind, and my heart. I want to choose my own path, and I want that path to include you." Ethan's hand found hers, warm and steady. "Lyra, I have hoped for this. I did not expect it, but I hoped. You are extraordinary, brave, clever, and kind. I want to be with you. Whatever the future holds, we face it together." Lyra's eyes filled with tears of relief and joy. She had faced trials, judgment, and danger, yet here she was, standing strong, with a human who had proven that courage, intelligence, and empathy transcended tradition. "Ethan, will you be my husband?" she asked, her voice clear and confident. Ethan smiled, a deep, sincere smile. "Yes, Lyra. I will, with all my heart." The city below seemed to shimmer in response, as if Aurelia itself recognized the moment. Citizens who had once whispered against Lyra now watched with awe and admiration. The outcast and the human had not only proven their worth, they had inspired a change in perspective. The following days were filled with preparations for a celebration that would honor both the courage of the human and the bravery of the outcast. The city's floating platforms were decorated with luminous flowers and crystal banners. Citizens of all ages gathered, some curious, some skeptical, but all eager to witness history. The elders of Harmony attended, a mixture of solemnity and respect in their expressions. The lead elder addressed the crowd. "Today we celebrate a new chapter in Aurelia's history. We honor the courage, intelligence, and empathy of two extraordinary individuals. Lyra Varel, once rejected, has shown her strength. Ethan Drake, a human from another world, has shown the highest virtues of his species. Together, they remind us that courage and goodness are not bound by blood or tradition." The crowd erupted into applause. Children cheered, young adults smiled, and even the skeptical elders nodded in acknowledgement. Lyra and Ethan stood side by side, hand in hand, as the celebration began. Their bond, forged in trials and strengthened through courage and respect, was now recognized. Humans had proven their worth in the eyes of an alien civilization, and Lyra had reclaimed her dignity and chosen her own path. During the festivities, Lyra walked with Ethan through the floating gardens. The twin suns had set, and the bioluminescent plants glowed softly, illuminating the paths. Lyra felt a profound sense of peace. "Ethan," she said softly, "I was afraid for so long. Afraid of rejection, afraid of failing, afraid of losing myself. But with you, I feel strong. I feel free." Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "That is what humans can offer," he said. "Courage, yes. Ingenuity, yes. But also trust, belief, and partnership. You are never alone with me, Lyra. Never." They paused near a small fountain, water sparkling with the reflections of Aurelia's floating lights. Lyra looked at him, her eyes shining. "Together, we can face anything. And maybe we can show our people that there is more to life than fear and tradition, that goodness, courage, and kindness matter most." Ethan nodded. "Exactly. Together we can make a difference, and I will stand with you always." For the first time, Lyra felt no shame, no doubt, no fear. She had faced her society's judgment, survived natural disasters, and navigated impossible trials. And now she had a partner who valued her for who she truly was. Above the city, stars twinkled like diamonds, and the twin moons rose, bathing Aurelia in gentle silver light. Lyra and Ethan stood together, watching the lights of the city below. They had faced trials that tested courage, wisdom, and empathy. They had proven that humans could inspire, lead, and act with honor, even among alien civilizations. And they had shown that the heart's courage could triumph over fear and tradition. As they walked back to the celebration, Lyra rested her head on Ethan's shoulder, feeling safe and cherished. The city had begun to change, slowly but surely, inspired by their example. And somewhere deep inside, Lyra knew that their story was just beginning, one filled with courage, adventure, discovery, and love. For the first time, she felt that being different was a gift, not a curse, and being human was extraordinary. The celebration continued into the night, filled with music, laughter, and hope. Lyra and Ethan moved among the citizens, sharing smiles and stories. Their bond, visible to all, symbolized the merging of worlds, the triumph of courage, and the power of humanity. And as the twin moons cast their silver glow over the floating city, Lyra whispered, "I chose you, Ethan, and you chose me. Together, we can face anything." Ethan smiled, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "Yes, Lyra, together." Above Aurelia, the skies shone bright, and a new dawn awaited, a dawn of courage, unity, and hope.